Netanyahu, asking for forgiveness over hostage killings as he warns about Hamas will pay a very heavy price.
I am asking for your forgiveness that we did not manage to bring them back still alive. We were close, but we didn't achieve it. And I would also like to once again repeat this evening, Israel will not stand silently doing nothing facing this massacre. Hamas will pay a very heavy price for that in the war against the axis of evil. And in this specific war against Hamas, and also in the north, we have set 4 goals: to eradicate Hamas, to bring back all of our hostages, to make sure that Gaza no longer poses a threat over Israel, and to allow the people of Israel living in the north return home safely. 3 of these goals go through one place, and that is the Philadelphia corridor. It is the conduit of oxygen and armament for Hamas. And I would like to devote several minutes in order to explain the meaning of the Philadelphia corridor. What is it? What is its significance for Israel's security? What is its significance and importance in guaranteeing that we won't face another October 7th and another October 7th and another October 7th, just as Hamas promised that it would do? So first of all, I'd like to show you what we had over the years until we pulled out of there. This is the state of Israel, this is Egypt, and you can see the Gaza Strip here. The distance from Tel Aviv isn't that big, from Beersheba and from the area surrounding the border. Of course, there's hardly any distance, but we had an international border going from the sea all the way down to Eilat. This was Israel's international border. If you could blow it up a bit. So if we see this now, as we zoom in, you can see that throughout these borders, the maritime border is under our control, but the land, the ground border isn't under our control. Ashkelon, Sderot, the Kibbutzim, the Kerem Shalom passage, and here you have the Rafah crossing and the Philadelphia corridor, all of them under our control. And this is what happened when we pulled out of Gaza. This is what happened. The borders remained in our hands. They tried breaking through the maritime border. Remember the Marmara and some other events and flotillas, but we...
Yeah, that was a humanitarian aid ship that you fucking destroyed. Mavi Marmara is what he's talking about. It was a Turkish humanitarian aid ship that they fucking sent commandos into and killed everyone on. And then fucking lied and said they had weapons, and they only showed like a bunch of fucking kitchen knives.
Weathered them all. So nothing could come wherever we were in control of the borders. But once we pulled out of the Philadelphia corridor. See, this is the border between the Gaza Strip and Egypt. And once we pulled out of there, there was no obstacle left from a massive infusion of weapons and means of warfare and machines for manufacturing weapons and machines for digging tunnels, all of that under the auspices of Iran, with the funding of Iran. So all of these things that you see here came into Gaza. So Gaza became this huge threat over Israel because there was no barrier here. There was nothing stopping this. This is what happened. So now the question remains, and people ask me this question, well, if it was that bad, right? How come you didn't conquer it? Why didn't you conquer it? And the answer is that we constantly tried to harm, to attack, of course, immediately after the disengagement, this armament, and of course, even more so under the time when Morsi was in regime, in power, but also with Mubarak as well. But we fought them. There were a series of wars or campaigns. I led 3 of these campaigns: Pillar of Defense, Guardian of the Walls, and Protective Edge. We fought it, And this, of course, led to a situation in which we killed off thousands of terrorists and senior ranking commanders, the chief of general staff of Hamas, Jabri, but there wasn't national or international legitimacy to go inside of Gaza, to conquer it, to reconquer the Rafah crossing and the Philadelphia corridor. There wasn't any national consensus or international agreement to that. Now, the importance of the Philadelphia corridor, it's not something I'm just saying now. I already said that 20 years ago.
The reason why he is specifically talking about the Philadelphia corridor, this is a great example, gives a great study and attempting to manufacture little missile icons inside of Gaza, but just city names within Israel. Yeah. So the reason why he is like specifically talking about the Philadelphia corridor is because pretty much everyone in those in the Israeli protests are cognizant of the real spoiler in the ceasefire and hostage release negotiations that have been taking place. Everyone understands that Benjamin Netanyahu keeps adding additional poison pill provisions into the pre-existing framework, specifically to continue the war, continue the genocide. Okay? They know that. That's why they keep fucking mentioning the Philadelphia corridor and the permanent occupation of Gaza, the permanent military occupation of Gaza as a reason. They know that. So now he's turning around and trying to explain away why he's like, we have to have this permanent military occupation on the southern border between the Gaza Strip and Egypt, because then they'll take the hostages out from that border and they'll sneak them into Iran and we'll never see them ever again. And all this other bullshit. The irony, of course, is that, dude, if you did the fucking ceasefire deal, you would have the hostages. And everybody understands this, with the exception of dumbass Americans. Okay? And the reason why, and I hate to say this, dumbass Americans don't understand it, is because our media does not actually fucking cover the situation and has done a great disservice in an effort to tie themselves, in an effort to continue the Biden administration's absolutely insane suicide pact with Benjamin Netanyahu. That's it. That is the reason why he is personally trying to explain away to the Israeli society in Hebrew why the Philadelphia corridor must be maintained. Why the Philadelphia corridor on the Rafah crossing must be permanently occupied by the Israeli military.
Sharon declared the disengagement at the end of 2003, and then a few months later on March 26, 2004.
What's the real reason he wants to control the Philadelphia corridor? I mean, he has openly recognized this. I think it's not that crazy. He wants a permanent military occupation of Gaza in a similar capacity to the West Bank, to deny any sort of Palestinian statehood in Gaza, and to have permanent military control over the civil affairs of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip as well. That's it. He wants to conquer it. He wants to permanently, fully reoccupy the Gaza Strip. That is the reason.
Described what are my minimal demands, and I said my first condition is control over all the crossings into the Gaza Strip and from the land, from the air, and from the sea. The Philadelphia corridor, which separates between the Gaza Strip and Egypt, will not be evacuated. If Israel cedes control over it, that's what I said back then Gaza will turn into a terrorist enclave. And when I resigned from the government, when I realized that they were going for the disengagement, that they were going to uproot Jewish settlements, communities, I handed in my resignation later, and I said to Prime Minister Sharon at the time, I said, as a minimum, I demanded that we keep the Philadelphia corridor in our hands. So it's not something new. It was obvious that if we don't have this corridor, they will arm themselves, they will.
Yeah, this is all like, hey, sorry the 6 hostages were killed, but here's why they had to be. That's what it is. This entire thing is, this entire PowerPoint, this racist ass fucking PowerPoint, is straight up to be like, this is why the 6 people were killed, okay? Sucks to suck. That's precisely what he's saying, which of course, you know, it's very telling, and I don't think that it's working for Israeli society. I don't think they give a fuck about his personal ambitions, and that's why he says it simply won't happen. Netanyahu, in a message to the Biden administration on a proposal to withdraw Israeli troops from the Philadelphia corridor and the Gaza-Egypt border in a hostage ceasefire deal. What this means basically is I'm not dealing with the ceasefire. You have to cave. You have to concede to my demand. The problem is there is a party there on the other side. There's a party there on the other side that literally is saying, no, we're not going to fucking understandably allow a permanent military occupation. That is not a ceasefire at all. Okay? Yeah. By the way, of course, his own defense minister is urging the security cabinet to reverse decision to keep IDF on the Philadelphia corridor, says hostages must be brought home. Yoav Gallant, who is the other war criminal named by the ICC for a warrant out for his arrest by the ICC prosecutors, is literally at odds with Benjamin Netanyahu. Other prominent military officials within the Israeli occupying forces have come out over the course of many months at this point and have said there is no military solution to Hamas. There is no permanent military occupation. We cannot maintain a permanent military occupation. This is ludicrous. This is insane. That is what they keep saying. Israeli Minister of Defense Gallant at the cabinet meeting on Sunday. The hostages have no time. We got proof of that yesterday. Continuing to impose constraints such as the decision on the Philadelphia corridor will result in us not meeting the goals of the war. The fact that we prioritize the Philadelphia corridor at the cost of the lives of the hostages is a serious moral disgrace. Minister Ron Derman at the cabinet meeting, it would be a grave mistake to change the decision from Thursday regarding the Philadelphia corridor. To even talk about it will be a disaster that will incentivize murder. We should exert a very heavy price from Hamas for murdering the hostages. That will make it clear to them that it must not happen again. Except you have done that, dumbass. You have. Like, you've killed 40,000 plus Palestinians. You've destroyed every fucking inch of the Gaza Strip. Okay? You've done that already. It's not working. There is no heavier cost to incur in this circumstance. It's just one fucking note, one speed. Netanyahu told Gallant in the cabinet meeting, I want to release all of our hostages no less than you. I fought for the release of the hostages. We already covered this part. Kamala Israel rat fuck pack. What is this? I'm 90% sure they're trying to rat fuck. The outside group Future Coalition PAC has launched a bunch of digital ads on Facebook and Instagram, Snapchat discussing Harris's support for Israel. These digital ads are targeted at very specific communities in Michigan. Map of the targeted zip codes below. What is this?
Vice President Harris has chosen a side, the right side. Harris has made herself clear. She stands with Israel and the Jewish people. She has, again and again. She understands the unbreakable bond between the U.S. and Israel. So when Netanyahu came to D.C., Harris hosted the prime minister at the White House. And when supporters of a free Palestine stood up for Gaza, Harris put them in their place. And supporters of free Palestine, they hate her. Because Kamala Harris gets it. We can trust she'll always support Israel.
Wait, are they saying they're running these ads in Muslim districts? I mean, what do you think? This isn't real, is it? Oh my God. It 100% is. Now, if only there was a way. I mean, this is literally that YouTube channel's description. Kamala Harris has helped put the American dream even further out of reach and can't be trusted to revive it. Future Coalition PAC is working to elect someone with fresh ideas who will fight for us. Yup. If that was an anti-Kamala ad, it's brilliant. It is an anti-Kamala ad. Of course it's an anti-Kamala ad. Guys, AIPAC rarely does ads about Israel. Okay? They didn't do... They paid very little mind and very little attention to Israel in any of their fucking forward correspondence in the Democratic Party primaries, because everybody understands ain't nobody give a fuck about Israel, dog. Okay? There are, however, some people who give a fuck about Palestine and Palestinians, and that's precisely the reason why this ad is being pumped in these districts, in these heavily Arab, heavily Muslim districts in Michigan. Okay? That's it. No matter how hard, the American media goes in defense of Israel, okay? Most people either A, don't give a shit, B, don't understand it, or C, think it's fucking abhorrent. The easiest way to solve this, and ads like this specifically, would be to obviously openly communicate that that's not what you're doing. Okay? Yeah, it's a fucking Republican ad, dude. The outside group Future Coalition PAC has launched a bunch of digital ads on Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat discussing Harris's support for Israel. These digital ads are targeted at very specific communities in Michigan. Map of the targeted zip codes below. It's very obvious what the fuck is going on. They're hitting Kamala by saying, look, she's incredibly pro-Israel. She's the most pro-Israel politician ever. Look at how pro-Israel she is. The unfortunate reality is she is fucking pro-Israel. That's it. Until she comes out 10 toes down and says something very different than what she has communicated thus far, she is fucking unimaginably pro-Israel. She is running towards Joseph Robinette Biden, who we all know is majorly pro-Israel, okay? And it's a deterrent. I mean, it's a fucking, he is so pro-Israel that it is bad for not only America, but America's soft power capabilities in the region, America's hegemonic status, America's interest in upholding at least this faint idea of the international rule-based order. Like, he's fucking up the bag entirely, even for the American State Department. And she is running alongside that. She is marrying herself to this idea at a time when Americans, when polled, say Trump was significantly better than Joe Biden on Israel. Think about that. But she is pro-Israel. What the fuck are you saying? No, I'm saying that she is. I'm saying that. So until she changes trajectory, changes course on, her correspondence or communications, separating herself from the Biden admin, trying to apply outside pressure, even though she is also capable of applying inside pressure as the vice president, telling the public that, like, no, this is not me, and that we need to change course, and this is the right thing to do going forward, she's fucking cooked. It's a lib-aligned pack. I doubt it. From the Israeli state broadcaster Khan, Prime Minister Netanyahu is trying to convince the public of the importance of the Philadelphia Axis when he was unable to convince neither Defense Minister Gallant nor the head of the Mossad Barna nor Chief of Staff Halevi on this matter. Bro, the fucking public broadcaster. The motherfucking public broadcaster is bouldering the Netanyahu cabinet. Netanyahu single-handedly at this point. And the American media and the American leadership is not doing that. It is mind-boggling how fucking bad their instincts are. I don't know what else to say. Hamas arm wing says new instructions were given guards. Yeah, we already covered this. It is crazy. Fuck. Timestamp. Last question from the presser in English.
And achieving the release would seriously ask
This is Bibi defining total victory when asked in English.
same seriousness. On August 19th, in English, a question that I was asked in Hebrew. I was asked whether Israel is not, I'm not doing enough to the release of hostages. Well, I want to set the record straight. On April 27th, Secretary of State Blinken said that Israel made an extraordinarily generous offer for a hostage deal. On May 31st, Israel agreed to a U.S.-backed proposal. Hamas refused. On August 16th, Israel agreed.
Yeah, he lied. It's funny that he's saying this in English because guess what? Everybody who understands Hebrew that's in that fucking room knows exactly what he did in that process. Because in Hebrew, in Israel, he kept saying, there's no fucking hostage deal. I don't know what these American dumbasses are on about. But when he's speaking in English, he's like, oh, yeah, Anthony Blinken said, you know, we made these generous proposals. I mean, it's so generous. I wonder, like, it's crazy to me that so many people in Israel speak English, okay? So many people see what he's doing. But it doesn't fucking matter because that question and that answer is for us in the Western world, for us in America, for us in the UK, for dumbasses that want to maintain this facade.
Agreed to what the United States defined as a final bridging proposal. Hamas refused again. On August 19th, Secretary Blinken said, Israel accepted the U.S. proposal. Now Hamas must do the same. On August 28th, that's 5 days ago, Deputy CIA Director said that Israel shows seriousness in the negotiations. Now Hamas must show the same seriousness. I want to ask you something. What has changed in the last 5 days? What has changed? One thing. These murderers executed 6 of our hostages. They shot them in the back of the head. That's what's changed. And now after this, we're asked to show seriousness?
Is crazy because, like, again, this is for the Western world. This does not fucking work in Israel any longer. That's why this conversation that took place a couple hours ago in English is one thing, but what's going on right now in Israel is an entirely separate thing. So do not be duped. Here it is. The Prime Minister's official residence, Lirat Shavit in Jerusalem. Determined protesters break through the police barricades to get to Netanyahu's residence. Do not be fooled by Western media charlatans as to what the fuck is actually going on. Israeli society is not oblivious to what the fuck is going on. They might hate Hamas, they might hate Palestinians, but they also fucking understandably recognize that there is one person who is at odds with even his own war cabinet in terms of his own personal military goals and his own selfish agenda. Okay? I thought you said they want Palestinians raped, so he's lying about Israel agreeing to the deal. You know what's really funny? Because those two things, they're probably not the same people, number one. And also, those two things are not at odds. That's what I keep repeating. There are people in Israel right now who personally do not give a fuck about what Israel has done in Gaza. Many, okay, according to polls. That's what it is, simply. 2/3, however, of Israeli society also simultaneously want their fucking hostages back. They want a ceasefire. They want the war to end. They want the hostages back. That's it. Every poll keeps consistently showing these two realities, okay? 2/3 of Israeli society literally does not care about what's going on in Gaza or wants it to continue. But 2/3 of Israeli society also want to fuck a ceasefire and a hostage deal. These people are not fucking protesting because they're like, oh, it's unconscionable that you've killed 40,000 Palestinians. They're protesting because these guys are fucking barbaric and they're going to murder our people. We know they're rapists and bloodthirsty, but they've offered a fucking olive branch in this situation to allow our Israeli friends and family members to escape. And you're not taking it. That's their mentality. There are, of course, a lot of people in Israeli society now, more people than ever before, that are legitimately saying they want a ceasefire and they do care about the Palestinians and whatnot. That number has definitely grown in Israeli society over the course of the past couple of months. Having said that, the broadest majorities are obviously still very much in favor of what Netanyahu has done in Gaza. Okay? Having said that, however, they still fucking want a ceasefire. They're like, we know they're murderers. Why the fuck won't you deal with them with the negotiations process? Do you not understand? Stop saying all 12 people. There are obviously more than that now. So yeah, all the PowerPoint and the chirping about the Philadelphia corridor is not for these guys. Okay? You know who it's for? It's for the segments of Israeli society that did not participate in the mass mobilization that took place earlier today. It is for the Bibis. It is for the Likudniks. It is for the Itamar Ben-Gvir, the Jewish Power Party supporters. It is for the settlers. Because there are still a shit ton of those guys in Israel who also are like, yeah, fuck the hostages. I don't give a fuck. Yeah, kill them all. There are still plenty of people, and those numbers are growing every day, that fundamentally support what Benjamin Netanyahu is doing. What? Don't all American Muslims know the things Trump did in Israel? I think you misunderstood my statement. Muslims in America will never vote for Trump, so these ads will do nothing. You're fucking wrong. Ted Bradley, you are wrong. Those guys are wrong for thinking that Donald Trump is going to be better than Biden in terms of Gaza. But no, there are plenty of American Muslims now who literally are like, I don't give a fuck, dude. The genocide is currently happening. The Democrats are responsible for it. I will literally do everything I can to punish them. There are plenty who won't vote for either, okay? But there is a significant number of people that is growing that literally will vote for Donald Trump. It is shocking. It is alarming. I think it's ridiculous. Having said that, it still very much exists. So you're wrong. No, there are definitely people who, no, I'm telling you right now, there are definitely a lot of people who will vote for Trump. Donald Trump is the number one dick rider of Israel in the United States of America, hands down. Like, it's like him and, I guess, technically Biden is a bigger dick rider because he's like ideologically invested in Israel. Donald Trump, on the other hand, is like materially invested in terms of like Miriam Adelson giving him $100 million and him saying and demanding that like the West Bank be permanently annexed in the same way that Donald Trump gave Golan Heights to Israel, right? I can't even talk. Joe Biden doesn't even get that kind of, doesn't even get that kind of play. Joe Biden is not as well liked in Israel as Donald Trump is. Donald Trump's more popular than fucking Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel. It's not a logical leap to assume that they are lying about Trump if they're lying this blatantly about Israel. What do you mean? Yeah, but we know what Trump has done. Trump's actions are directly responsible for October 7. Like his actions of giving Israel everything, Abraham Accords, all of that greatly worsened the conditions of everyday Palestinians and greatly increased the brutality that Palestinians were subjected to. And I talked to Palestinians in Gaza, and even they personally think, well, under Trump, you know, we weren't being bombed this hard. That is a real thing, okay? Because it's very difficult for people to recognize what is going on right now and then, you know, think about anything else. They see the Democratic Party sending bombs to Israel, and those bombs are being used to kill their friends, to kill their families, okay? I know what the truth is. The truth is, of course, Trump would be significantly worse. The truth is, Trump has been significantly worse, but it does not matter. Do you understand? It fucking does not matter because Trump is currently not the president. And that gives him a shit ton of benefits in terms of how he can message out of this. And he's done a relatively decent job so far in terms of like angling it in a way where there's an out for him so that people just imagine people just project their own values into Donald Trump. They think, oh yeah, he is a peaceful dove. Okay? Do you get what I'm saying? Do you understand? This isn't correct, but people don't make correct, calculated, logical decisions when they're fucking voting, which is precisely the reason why you have to communicate all the time exactly what your policies are. You have to demonstrate messaging discipline. There are like, and if I know this, obviously Democratic Party operatives know this as well, okay? So do we give Trump a chance? Fuck no. I'm not saying that, man. I'm not saying that at all. Please understand. You know what my position is on this. There's a difference between what the truth is and how people perceive it, okay? That is what I'm saying. Jesus Christ. Yeah, he just says he will negotiate perfectly and end this war. Genius how vague it is. Exactly. It's the same principle behind Donald Trump being like, I'm going to cut prices. I'm going to cut grocery prices. Kamala Harris comes out and says, this is how we're going to cut grocery prices. He says, that's communism. How are you going to cut grocery prices? I'm going to cut it. Think about that. Okay? Someone's going to clip this and say you're pro-Trump, Lamau. I don't care. I don't care what fucking people do. Like, if people are that invested in, like, you know, scarring my reputation or whatever in the midst of an ongoing genocide, as I'm literally talking about how Democrats should communicate better if they want to win, okay, then, you know, fuck those people. What are you going to do? Here's Netanyahu's plan for a Palestinian state. Basically, shove all Palestinians to Gaza. The West Bank is erased. This is ethnic cleansing. I mean, it's exactly what it is. Yeah, they even bring up the Khabib clip. This has 96,000 likes, man. I'm telling you, people want to imagine, people always have a tendency to project what their own personal desires are to their politicians, especially if their politicians are perceived as charismatic. Okay? And in the absence of like counter messaging from the Democratic Party, of course, people are going to make their own minds up.
You know, I don't know. I got a little girl 50 times. Thank you, man. You know, I don't know. I got a little girl I love, and I got to see. I think this could be it. Well, if it is 50 times.
And by the way, this is not my own inference. This is not just me like anecdotally talking about the things that I've heard from Arab Americans or even Palestinians stuck in Gaza that are currently experiencing a genocide. This also shows up in the data, okay? There is empirical evidence to back up this sentiment that Americans broadly want a ceasefire and even want to deny weapons transfers to Israel, but simultaneously, those very same Americans, when polled, think Donald Trump is going to do better than Biden did. He was, leading by double digits on Biden on the issue of Israel-Palestine. And now, more and more, he's leading on Kamala Harris as well. Kamala Harris was closer early on to Donald Trump in terms of like who would do better in Gaza, okay? And now her fucking approval ratings on Gaza are worsening because she keeps coming out and tying herself to the current administration and their deeply unpopular policies. It's that simple. It's not that hard to understand. It is not that hard to fucking understand. Also, Trump has given way too many flip-flop passes by the public and the media. He can tell Palestinians will end the war while also telling Israelis and Jews will finish the job, and no one bothers to question him because he's Trump. Exactly. No, absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. Hassan, the hilariously sad thing is Trump was talking about Russia, Ukraine. Oh my God, I said this. Oh my God, I called this. Oh my God, I didn't even know he actually personally talked about the fight.
He said to me, "Oh, I hope you can get in because we have to stop the wars. We have to stop the killing. So many people are being killed." He's a very smart guy, very interesting guy. We talked.
Wait, I don't remember this in the fucking Logan Paul impulsive video.
You guys would probably say he's the best ever, maybe, and he was just about my favorite guy. Right after the election, if I win, I will get that war stopped before I get to office.
Talking about Russia, Ukraine.
I'm talking about Russia, Ukraine.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, yeah,
he
did.
did.
He did. He 100% was, yeah, no, you're right. We watched this. It's genuinely frustrating how willfully incompetent Dems are being. 100%. It is ridiculous. It is absolutely fucking ridiculous. What the Democrats are doing right now is poison. Okay? Kamala has lost 40% support from Muslim voters. Wait, what? Shocking poll. Democrats had a 40-point drop with Muslim voters. Jill Stein is not tied with Kamala Harris with the Muslim vote. This is the strongest position third parties have been in my entire life. Yeah, okay, dude. Jill Stein is really cooking, dude. Jill Mentum is real. Come on, guys. All right, let's look at the protests.
Demand that the government agree to a ceasefire.
The protests are good because it's like at least getting some fucking real coverage in American media for the first time ever, communicating some of these desires that completely go against the American position and completely go against American State Department propaganda.
In Gaza,
I gotta pee.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is placing all the blame on Hamas, saying whoever murders hostages does not want a deal. Marcus Moore is on the scene in Israel. Good morning, Marcus.
George, good morning. This is the funeral procession for 23-year-old Israeli-American hostage Hersh Goldberg, Poland. You see all the people here in Jerusalem who have lined the procession route as they go to a nearby cemetery. His murder and that of 5 other hostages sparked deep sorrow and anger across Israel. Overnight, thousands packing the streets of Tel Aviv to protest the deaths of 6 more hostages. Protesters blocking a highway in Tel Aviv, setting fires, demonstrating against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's handling of the war. Israeli police seen clashing with protesters, arresting dozens, and using water cannons to disperse the crowd, dragging and pushing them through the streets. Outrage growing after the Israeli Ministry of Health says the 6 hostages were killed, quote, in a number of short-range shots, estimating their deaths occurred 48 to 72 hours before their bodies were examined. The hostages found in Gaza, Israeli-American Hersh Goldberg, Poland, among those murdered. Richmond, Virginia Rabbi David Asher, a friend of the Poland family, horrified by the news.
Beautiful boy who was taken way too soon. It's horrible and tragic that so many civilians have died in Gaza during this war.
I spoke with Hersh's mother earlier this summer after a video of him in captivity was released to the public.
Listen, we are pawns in a game.
The hostages are pawns in a game. Their families are pawns in a game. And a game that we didn't sign up for.
The head of Hamas's negotiation team saying the hostages could have been brought back alive, claiming.
What do you think finally made Biden go, Bibi isn't doing enough? Dude, I don't care, okay? I don't care. I don't care that Biden finally said Bibi isn't doing enough. For the past 3 months, Benjamin Netanyahu has openly fucking sullied the terms that the American government kept saying was Israel's own terms, okay? It means nothing. It means nothing to me, and it should mean nothing to you, okay? Until you see firm commitments. Until you see firm commitments from the American administration currently, the Democratic Party, okay? Until you see them genuinely take a stance, it means nothing. It took 3 months of him openly saying, fuck Biden, I don't care about this deal, there's no deal, for him to turn around and be like, oh, I guess he's like not doing enough. That's the strongest condemnation publicly that he's given to Benjamin Netanyahu. It does not fucking matter, okay? For the past 11 months, Biden has come out and been like, I want a two-state. Benjamin Netanyahu comes out the next day, says, fuck a two-state. How about a no-state? Okay? Every fucking day. Rinse and repeat. Every fucking day. For the past 11 months of this ongoing genocide. It is so ridiculous. Oh, wow. Finally, he said, Benjamin Netanyahu. Finally, he recognized the truth. Here it is in January 14th, 2024. Biden running out of patience with Bibi as Gaza war hits 100 days. Until he says we are going to follow international law, until he says we are going to stop, we're going to follow American law that is already in the books in terms of weapons transfers to Israel. We cannot do it anymore because Israel is very clearly committing gross human rights violations, and therefore we cannot give them any more weapons. It is against the law. It is illegal under American law to continue giving weapons to a country that is openly violating international law. Okay? That is in the American law. Ain't nobody's out here demanding Biden fucking, invade Tel Aviv or some shit, okay? Which you could make an argument under international human rights and international law to do such a thing, but we're not even saying that. People are simply saying, follow the fucking law in the goddamn books, okay? Follow the fucking law in your own books. Because he is incontrovertible of international law and also American law every single time they send weapons to Israel. Every single time. That's why it's important that the UK is, at the very least, stopping some weapons transfers. Anyway, so him consistently saying, oh, I'm mad at Netanyahu, it's nothing. 30 licenses out of 350 doesn't matter. 30 licenses out of 350 is still good because last year it was 0. It was not even a question. My concern now is that Netanyahu is saying Hamas will pay a very, very heavy price, will be him killing Sinwar in the middle of negotiations to get a ceasefire, thus ending negotiations and using the hostage killing as a justification. I mean, I feel like they haven't been able to kill Sinwar yet, so I don't know how the fuck they're going to do that now. Who knows? And it's not Yahya Sinwar that is, causing people to be up in arms against this genocidal apartheid state. Okay? It is the fact that the genocidal apartheid state exists that causes people to rise up in arms. So Yahya Sinwar dies, but that doesn't mean the resistance dies. Of course, people are still going to resist.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is the reason for their deaths. Both sides trading blame. Netanyahu saying Sunday, quote, "He who murders hostages does not want a deal." An Israeli security official confirming to ABC News 3 of the killed hostages were set to be released, according to a July draft of the ceasefire deal.
This is the most damning part of this. Okay? By name, they said, "You seem mad." I mean, I don't know how you wouldn't be. So much senseless death and destruction so far over the course of the past 11 fucking months. Everyone is screaming bloody murder. There is no good reason to continue this dance. There is no good reason. We are locked in as the United States of America. We are locked in at the mercy of a fucking madman who is even at odds with his own fucking war cabinet at times in continuing this fucking death and destruction. And he has a personal reason as to why he wants to do it. How the fuck are you not mad? We're having this conversation when tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Israelis are fucking storming Benjamin Netanyahu's primary residence, demanding a change in the way that Israel has continued waging this genocide. Of course I'm going to be mad in this situation. They're mad too. I'm shocked that you're not. You know?
Aviva, the wife of Israeli-American hostage Keith Siegel, concerned her husband could be killed at any moment.
We need all the hostages home.
This morning, the protest continuing as thousands take to the streets demanding the hostages be released. And another look at all of the people who had gathered here to pay their respects to the Goldberg Poland family. There are more than 90 hostages still in Gaza, several of them Americans, and according to officials, the belief is that only half of them are still alive. Families here in Israel urging the Israeli government to accept a ceasefire deal to bring the rest of the hostages home. Michael.
Yeah, our thoughts are with those families.
Well, this afternoon, thousands...
Israeli court orders end to the general strike in Tel Aviv.
To the streets of Tel Aviv, continuing with their protests, blocking the city's main highway. A court in Israel says a general strike currently taking place across the country must now end. Well, from there, our Middle East correspondent Alistair Bunkle has more.
For the second day running, protesters have blocked the major highways running through Tel Aviv. Today is a...
Let's be real. They're not protesting for Palestinians or see them as human. Yeah, no shit. It doesn't fucking matter, though. You understand that, right? Because guess what, dude? They're protesting so that Israel actually follows through on the current ceasefire deal that is in play. Okay? A ceasefire deal that Hamas has said yes to. And that will stop more Palestinians from being ruthlessly fucking slaughtered. So even if they personally don't give a shit about the humanity of Palestinians, there is a mutual interest here. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna fucking support the goddamn protests in Israel. Okay, I'm gonna continue supporting it, while also telling you, obviously, that there are plenty of people in those fucking in those crowds that do not give a fuck about Palestinians, do not think that Palestinians are human beings at all. Okay.
General strike across Israel, which means public sector workers are out on strike. Businesses, shops, restaurants are closed. Public transport's not running. Ben Gurion Airport has been closed to flights landing and taking off as well. Now, we think that strike is going to end at 6 o'clock this evening. The government is opposing it in court. But whilst that strike is going on today, people are using it as an opportunity to come out again and protest against the government and against Benjamin Netanyahu. Just to give you an idea of where we are, as I said, central Tel Aviv, but right outside the Defense Ministry, which is where the Israeli capital.
The goal is economic paralysis within Israel. The first general strike began with the aim of pressuring for a prisoner exchange deal with the support and participation of the Israeli Labor Federation, the Hizdatrut. The strike was initially scheduled for only a few hours during the day, but there are now new discussions to extend it until tomorrow, with the addition of new sectors, and it is subject to further renewal depending on the developments of the political discussions and negotiations. Here we will monitor the most important events, updates, and impacts. One of the methods of strike is blocking important roads and preventing movement. Very anti-Semitically, for the record. Baggage conveyors at airports have stopped, and no planes are taking off. Work was expected to resume at 10 a.m., but was postponed until the evening with the possibility of extending until tomorrow. Ben Gurion Airport is completely closed, anti-Semitically, as I might add. Okay? Haifa Port is out of service since this morning, anti-Semitically, as I might add. The strike has affected government offices, banks, and public transport. It was expected to end at 10 a.m., but there are now discussions about extending it. During the discussions about the extension, 2 planes took off for America, but the matter was quickly realized and the airport was closed again with greater firmness. The union has informed the labor court that the strike will be called off at 6 p.m., the closing time for the companies, with discussions of continuing over whether to resume the strike tomorrow as well. The government has filed a case in the labor court to force the union to stop its strike. To begin with, the strike is an important development, but it has not yet gained much momentum. The strike was good today, but if it does not continue tomorrow and the day after, it will be worthless. On the other hand, there's also the National Union, which is considered a parallel union to the Workers' Union, which announced last night that the website had collapsed due to the large number of requests to join from people who are against the strike. The labor court forces the union to end the strike within half an hour from now because the union has no right to interfere in political affairs, and thus the government wins the case. Sheba Hospital also refused to treat wounded Israeli soldiers due to the strike. Holy fuck. Damn, dog, they're doing literal fucking BDS anti-Semitism. Yeah. Most chatters are missing the point of these protests. It's not like the Israelis are pro-Palestine. It's because they want Bibi to meet their demands and bring the hostages back home. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, they're doing BD us. Yeah. Exactly. Are we sure these aren't Iran-funded protests? No, they must be, dude. Anyone that protests Israel obviously is funded by Iran. Except I'm Iran, dude. I'm the one funding the protests. You know what I mean? And you're Iran, technically, because you're funding me at the top of the hour in order to avoid the 3-minute ad break. So I guess we're all Iran. Because at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. And if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe, as you guys know already. And you can do that for $6 or for free with a Twitch Prime. And in that funding mechanism, you all become Iran. We are all Iran. We're all mullahs in our own way. This is an older story, I think, from a couple days prior. Prime Minister has authority to execute the hostages. Gallant Bibi clash at cabinet meeting. The Prime Minister has the authority to bring any decision to a vote, even to execute the hostages, Gallant said, according to one official. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Dude, I'm Austrian. My country is so cucked when it comes to Israel. Is sad. Brother, you are talking to an American. Okay? There is no country cucked greater than the United States of America. Okay? Like, we are the most cucked.
Often meets in wartime, right? President Netanyahu spends a lot of his time. And I would guess that if the protests are like this now, just coming up to 1 o'clock in the afternoon here, they will only grow as the day wears on. I can see people walking to join it, and the crowds are getting bigger, and they want to bring...
No, America's more cucked than Germany, yes. Like, America is more... I mean, I guess Germany also, like, straight up arrests like anti-Zionist Jews and shit, but so do we. Germany's a close second. No, actually, we are literally the most cucked because we have the most power. We have the most power in this process.
From West Jerusalem.
Anyway, let's hear what Elon Pape had to say about the strikes.
Vast numbers of people still out on the street there, despite the Labour court ordering the end of the strike that was called by the trade union on the basis that it was politically motivated, said the court. How do you interpret that? Aren't all strikes inherently politically motivated?
Yes, of course they are. This is just the way that the legal, or those who represent the legal system in Israel are trying to navigate between their full understanding, and they already recognize that Netanyahu has breached almost every law in the book of laws of Israel on the one hand, and the fact that they depend on him to survive in their positions, whether it is the prosecutor, the chief prosecutor, or the legal advisor to the government, and therefore...
I'm in the new Philly D Thumbo. Not shocking. What is it about? Is it about the hostage? Is it about the hostages? We'll watch it afterwards.
This is just a play. This is a game. This is nothing to do with legality or illegality. This is a balance of power by which, until now at least, the base of Netanyahu, his coalition allies, and himself are still the ones who determine Israeli policies inside Israel and towards the Palestinians in Gaza, in the West Bank, and towards the north, and towards South Lebanon.
We're talking about pressure now from outside the country. We understand that the United States could be poised to offer a so-called take-it-or-leave-it ultimatum to Benjamin Netanyahu that could spell a possible end to U.S. mediation efforts in bringing about a ceasefire. What might that potentially mean for Netanyahu if it happens?
Well, again, it's funny how we sort of think that we are hearing some dramatic news, where actually we see the repeat of the same news again and again. We were already in this point where the Americans said, what we are proposing now is take it or leave it. And then they came again and said, no, this time we really mean it's take it or leave it. And I'm afraid this is going to be the same. Netanyahu is going to reject the American proposal, whatever it is, because as I said in my early answer, his main strategy is to continue the situation of the war, because he believes that's the only way that can ensure his political survival. He doesn't think that the Americans are in any position to really pose danger to his own position in the government, because we are 60 days before the election.
Brother, Benjamin Netanyahu could be like, Benjamin Netanyahu could put his dick on the fucking table in a Zoom meeting with Joseph Robinette Biden, and Biden would come out the next day and be like, he had a great dick. I'm giving him $20 billion extra, Jack. That's where we're at right now. Okay. I have no, I do not fucking think personally that like Biden is going to change course unless there is additional pressure from people in his immediate orbit, specifically Kamala Harris.
Actions, and therefore this is all going to be, there's going to be a lot of talk, but very little action on the ground. And I'm afraid we need something far more drastic than an American proposal that tries to satisfy Netanyahu's demands that keep changing, because he doesn't want a deal and he doesn't want to end the fighting.
When you say something far more drastic is needed, what does that look like to you?
Well, definitely not what I heard from...
How can people think Kamala's better than Trump on this issue? I'm personally voting for Trump to stop the genocide. We got it, bro. We get it. Here's your attention, okay? Yes. Donald Trump, who is literally one of the most pro-Israeli administrations, is going to be better than Kamala Harris on Israel. Is so fucking stupid. There is no better or worse on genocide. It's like literally the worst thing you can do. Okay? Go off, you know? Have fun. Have fun with that. It's a painfully obvious role. I know. It's so fucking stupid.
From Kamala Harris in the Democratic Convention a week ago here in Chicago. We need a position, if not by the Americans, at least by the Europeans, and at least by the European countries who already showed some conscientious position to treat Israel as a pariah state that commits a crime against humanity, namely genocide in Gaza. and that should be translated into sanctions, into stopping military support for Israel, financial support. But I'm afraid, and I have to be realistic, this is not going to happen in the next 60 days, or it won't come in the next 60 days from Washington. It just remains to be seen, is the world really run by the United States alone, or are there other powers that can change the balance of power on the ground in Gaza, because the genocide continues, and as you have reported, it has now moved into the West Bank. So, and it won't stop by any internal dynamics in Israel. The only way to stop it is an international coordinated effort to make sure that Israel pays a price that is high enough to persuade its policymakers that it's time to stop the genocide.
Ilan Pape, it's been a pleasure to have you on Al Jazeera. Thank you. This discussion, we're looking...
He's right. He's right. He's absolutely right. Like, I think it's good that there are obviously public protests happening. I mean, you can't even refute that Trump is more committed to stopping the war than Kamala. He literally said he wants to sign a deal on day one. What are you talking about, dude? Donald Trump also literally fucking personally said in a matter of 12 hours that he was actually going to vote to enshrine abortion protections in the Florida Constitution, and then literally turned around and said, actually, never mind, I'm not going to do that. It doesn't matter what he fucking says. You have to look at what he has done, okay? The Abraham Accords, number one, was devastating for Palestinian statehood, Palestinian sovereignty. Donald Trump also permanently recognized the annexation of Golan Heights, which is Syrian territory that is illegal. Okay, Donald Trump moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. Shut the fuck up. He also consistently keeps saying he uses Palestinian as a pejorative whenever he talks about people. But beyond that, he also, I personally think genocide in Palestine is more important than the abortion. No, you fucking dingus. First of all, don't ever come in here and try to talk to me about the fucking the Palestinian genocide, okay? I know more than you on this fucking situation. I'm using that as a fucking analogy. I'm using that as an example that Donald Trump is flip-floppy on every issue, including on the issue of Palestine. He never says the fucking truth. You didn't refute my goddamn point. Okay, shut the fuck up. I'm not even going to have this conversation. Jesus, why are you so mad? Why am I mad? Because dumbasses keep coming in here to fucking troll when I'm trying to have a normal conversation. What the fuck do you mean? Why am I mad?
Israel and Tel Aviv to a halt, which is what they're doing. Hey, sorry, can I just quickly ask you?
I'm mad because he's doing that specifically because there are enough idiots in this chat that will literally go, oh, he's making reasonable points. Like, that person doesn't believe a single goddamn thing he's saying, but you're so stupid that you literally fucking jump to argue at his behest. It's a fucking troll account. That's why I'm mad. Because there are people who are so goddamn susceptible to fucking trolling. I'm mad that even in my community, there's so many fucking stupid people sometimes, okay? That's why I'm mad. I'm mad that people see an ongoing genocide and think this is my opportunity to troll some fucking dumbass Twitch streamer, dude. That's what I'm mad about. Calling your viewers idiots, nice, man. Shut the fuck up. If you are getting duped by that troll, you are an idiot, okay? I'm sorry. Not everyone is. Most people, as a matter of fact, are not. So shut up. Stop talking about this. Let's get back to the fucking main point of contention here.
You're out on the streets for a second day. Do you think this time will make a difference? I mean, you've been protesting for 11 months. You feel that the Netanyahu government's not really been listening to you. Do you think this time is different?
We will not stop until they're all back home. We will not stop.
And what if this isn't enough to change their mind? What then?
We will do everything we can to get them back home.
What's your message to the Israeli government?
Bring them back home now.
And that means a ceasefire deal in Gaza? Yes. Do you think it's time to stop fighting?
Yes.
Okay,
bring
thank you.
Bring the soldiers back home. Bring the hostages back home. Bring all of them home.
Thank you. There are reports in American media this morning that President Biden and Vice President Harris are meeting later on in the White House with the U.S. National Security Team to discuss the ceasefire deal, and perhaps they might put on the table a sort of a take it or leave it deal, if you like, a final chance to both Hamas and to the Israeli government. The negotiations have been going on for a long time. They have repeatedly failed. And I think there is a lot of frustration in the US administration, certainly amongst the Qataris and the Egyptians as the other two mediators, that maybe it is now time to say, look, here is the deal. If you don't want it, don't take it. But we cannot strip these negotiations out ad infinitum, especially when the strength of feeling in Israel for a hostage deal does seem to be growing.
Mass protests broke out across Israel yesterday after the bodies of 6 more hostages were found in Gaza, with fresh blame falling on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Critics say he has stalled a hostage and ceasefire deal, even while more than 100 people are still being held in Gaza, according to the Israeli military. They include 4 Israeli Americans, one of them, 20-year-old Edon Alexander, a New Jersey native who volunteered to serve in the IDF after high school. He was stationed near the Gaza border during the attack. His parents, Adi and Yael Alexander, join us now. Thank you both so much for being here. We've all said to you, we cannot imagine what you and all these families have been going through over what is nearly now a year. And you write a lot about that in an op-ed that's in the New York Times this morning. Give us some sense.
Yet another glaringly obvious example that Israel is not the safest place for Jews. Okay? It's just not. Bro, lived in New Jersey. You lived in fucking New Jersey. You could have just kept eating the best bagel sandwiches, the best sub sandwiches, and just lived a normal fucking life. And you were like, nah, dog, I'm going to go volunteer for the fucking genocidal apartheid state. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, here's the Philip DeFranco video.
And then in big international news, we got to talk about these huge protests that we've been seeing in Israel this weekend. Though also to do that, we have to start with what happened on Saturday, because that is when the Israeli military recovered the bodies of 6 hostages in an underground tunnel in southern Gaza. And notably there, 3 of the hostages were reportedly scheduled to be released in the first phase of a ceasefire proposal that was discussed back in July, including 23-year-old Israeli-American Hirsch Goldberg Poland. And you might remember his parents actually spoke at the DNC, with them calling for a deal to bring the hostages home and end the suffering of innocent civilians in Gaza. But now today, they were in Jerusalem for their son's funeral. And with that, when the news broke, you quickly had the Israeli military claiming that Hirsch and the other hostages were killed by Hamas. So this is Hamas, on the other hand, was saying that it was Israel's fault, with them then, without providing evidence, claiming that the hostages were killed by Israeli bullets. However, yesterday, you had the Israeli health ministry saying a forensic examination showed that the hostages had been shot at close range. But of course, either way there are a lot of people in Israel who feel like the government hasn't done enough. And notably, that includes the Hostage and Missing Families Forum, which is a group started by families of those taken by Hamas on October 7th. Right? And with that, you had them announcing that there would be protests in Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and other places across the country, writing on X, "Today, the families will bring the nation to a halt. Today, the entire nation will stand alongside the hostages' families to protest the cabinet's ongoing neglect of the hostages. They will also call upon leaders of the world to exert all possible pressure on Hamas to sign the deal." And with that, it actually ended up being one of the biggest nationwide protests since the outbreak of Israel's war on Hamas, with the Hostage Families Group estimating that at least 800,000 people took part. And notably, with all that, you had some protesters blocking highways across the country and clashing with police. In Tel Aviv, for example, you reportedly had police firing a water cannon and throwing stun grenades. Police reportedly arresting 29 people in the city, accusing them of vandalism, disorderly conduct, and attacking officers. And then beyond that, the backlash against the government has continued into today, with us seeing, for example, the country's largest labor union launching a strike, and that disrupting everything from schools and universities to businesses, and even delaying flights.
In terms of how the hostages died, the Israeli autopsy is one thing, but also Abu Ubaidah has like confirmed that they killed the hostages because since the Nusayrat operation that took the lives of hundreds of Palestinian civilians in an effort to rescue a couple Israeli hostages, they've changed course on how they will deal with it if they feel as though the Israeli military is going to militarily take out the hostages rather than the ceasefire, they will execute them. That's what they said.
lights in much of the country. But then also with that, a court ordered the strike to come to an end this afternoon, because the union is technically authorized to call for strikes only for economic reasons and workers' rights, but not over political issues. And while the union accepted the decision this time, they've really made a point. And, the domestic pressure there on the government is probably the greatest it's been at any point since October 7th, especially on Netanyahu. Because at the protest, you had people holding up signs calling him a murderer or a criminal, with many personally blaming him for failing to strike a deal with Hamas. And in fact, with that, he's been accused of purposely stalling efforts for a deal by some hostage families and their supporters. And as far as why, that's because his political survival largely depends on his far-right coalition partners who've already threatened to collapse his government if he agrees to ceasefire. And, with that, you actually had the likes of one of the biggest commentators on this issue, Hasan Piker, commenting on the opposition to Netanyahu inside Israel.
Like, Israeli society, by and large, is blaming Benjamin Netanyahu, it seems, or at least like the people that are protesting are blaming Benjamin Netanyahu for refusing to come to terms. And Bibi is like spiraling out of control. He might do some crazy shit as a last-ditch effort. So it's definitely a situation that we're going to be keeping a close eye on in the upcoming days, considering that it's seemingly coming to like a final moment.
And there, whether you agree or you disagree with most of what Hasan says, he's not the only one thinking that the last few days could be pivotal. Because on top of everything that's happening in the country, we've seen the international pressure stepping up as well. I mean, one big thing, the UK announced today that it would halt exports of some arms to Israel because of possible breaches of international humanitarian law by Israel. And this, as you had Biden saying outright today that Netanyahu is not doing enough to secure a hostage deal. And then with that, we're now learning that the Biden administration may be planning to present a final take it or leave it deal to both sides soon. And after that, if the two sides fail to accept it, it could be the end of American-led negotiations. But ultimately, as always with this situation, anything could happen. For now, we'll have to wait to see if, we are just around the corner from a turning point or just more of the same. And then, so this news out of Brazil.
So, what's interesting about it is that he mentions the Biden take it or leave it deal, but it's like, all things considered, it's not actually a change at all. Like, if we analyze how Biden has operated thus far, that take it or leave it deal is just for Hamas. They're saying either you fucking take it or Israel, we're just going to sick Israel on you. Do you see what I'm saying? And from Hamas's perspective, nothing has changed. So for them, they're not going to take the deal, obviously. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think the take it or leave it is like, oh, we're going to stop giving money to Israel. They have not thus far. So I'd be shocked if this was a genuine change in attitude from the American government.
Because we were talking earlier about how you are doing and where your hope is right now.
So, good morning, first of all. Thank you so much for having us. Rachel, Pauline Goldberg, the whole 11 months that we are all in this struggle together, all the families, she told us hope is mandatory. And this is something that we all kept inside of us. And we felt that we don't have a choice. This is our family. This is our loved ones. We have to be hopeful and to know that this is going to end eventually. But after the devastating news that we all got on Saturday, I'm feeling, devastating, broken. I don't have words to express how we all feeling. I don't want to say hopeless, but it was a tough moment for all of us.
And Rachel lost her son. He was one.
Yes, after Hirsch being murdered by his captive. And
just devastating.
A true gut punch, I would imagine. Adi, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met with the families of hostages held in Gaza. You were on that call. What can you tell us about that conversation?
It was our, 15 meeting with Jake Sullivan yesterday, and it took almost an hour and a half. Now, from what we understand, there is a proposal being drafted right now as we speak, and it will be presented to both parties, Israelis and Hamas, and that will be a bridging proposal.
The mother has a dog tag. The IDF dog tag because it's probably her son's, chat. Her son volunteered for the IDF. Her son was a prisoner of war. It's her sons.
And we feel like this proposal is now or never proposal. And I hope they will take it seriously and say, yes, let's go.
15 meetings you've had with American officials.
Yes.
Do you get a sense that the White House is doing everything it can, or would you like to see them doing more?
I would like to see them do something different, maybe, because the outcome, it's the same outcome after 11 months.
Wait, did I misunderstand? No, this is the New Jersey family, is it not? Yeah. This is the New Jersey family. Yeah. This is the dude from New Jersey who fucking went and volunteered for the IDF and was at the border when he was nabbed.
People are in. It was the first group of released hostages, more than 100. If I'm not mistaken, 131 hostages been released. But we see the dedication, and I wish to see the same dedication and commitment from the Israeli government as we see from the American government.
I was going to ask you, when the Prime Minister was in Washington in July, you had an opportunity to speak with him.
Correct.
What did you tell him, and what would you tell him now?
I personally asked them. We sat together at the cabinet room. I sat next to him, literally a foot away from him. And I personally asked him, assuming that Hamas needs the deal, and they need the deal, and the proposal is fair, and they say, yes, let's go, what happened then? He told us, we go and we execute the deal. And he was committed to the deal. So now we are...
Yeah, so he just lied to the family. Yeah, so I sat next to Benjamin Netanyahu and he just lied to my face. Because at the time while this was happening, I'm almost certain that there was a deal. Which is crazy. Like Benjamin Netanyahu straight up looked at this dude's face and was like, "Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, I would love to do a deal with Hamas. It's just that, you know, I just have so many additional reasons as to why I can't. That I keep adding new reasons as to why I simply cannot. You know? I really want to, I just can't."
A month later, with 6 hostages dead, that never had to happen.
Yeah.
He's prolonging the war for the short political reasons, and time passing by, and we're getting more bodies out of Gaza. This is unacceptable.
You've written that you have no faith in him to change this right now, but we started off talking about the hope that Rachel said is so important for you to have. While you have hope, and any parent would have hope for their child, what is it about your son, about Idan, that keeps you fighting every day and hopeful every day?
We know he's a tough kid. He's a tall, tough kid. He's a swimmer. And we hope he's holding up. And we coming for him. And he needs to survive.
You know, I know that the Jewish New Year is coming up and the anniversary is coming up, and I hope that there is healing for your families at that time.
And we thank you for continuing to tell his story, because the only way this stays in the consciousness is for you to be here. As painful as it is, as much as you may not want to be, we appreciate it.
No, he's not dead. I guess he's not. The New Jersey one is not dead. So here's the thing, okay? Let me explain something to you. There are certain voices that are heard in American media and people sympathize with them. Okay? You obviously understand and recognize the humanity of Palestinians, but many in American media do not. Okay? So I will always be an advocate, even if it is an Israeli occupying force soldier's parents who are worried about their son, who personally traveled to Israel to do war crimes, okay, to join the war crime brigade, as long as they are fucking calling into account Benjamin Netanyahu's complicity and Benjamin Netanyahu's refusal to put together a hostage negotiation, that's the only voice that Americans are going to hear, okay? They don't give a fuck. They don't even give a fuck if you're like a white woman with blonde hair and blue eyes and you're a doctor and you went and you surgically fucking removed shrapnel from Palestinian children's heads. They don't care. They don't give a fuck. If you are pro-Palestinian in any circumstance, they just don't care. They don't even hear it. So for me, these are the only voices that are actually heard in mainstream media. And as long as they are literally outflanking everybody else, then I'm as long as they are saying what is true, which is that Benjamin Netanyahu is responsible for all of the hostages that are being killed, and they are not dealing with the Palestinians in a meaningful way to come to table with the deal that exists, you know, I'm here for them. I'm here to listen to what their statements are going to look like.